knows yet? Well, you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
And welcome back to another edition of the TWSN Tailgate Show. As always, I am your host, Matt Levine. I am joined by my guy, Will Hollon. Will, how are you doing today? We just got an awesome, epic national championship game last night. We got a lot to talk about here, but how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Trying to brave the extremely cold weather in Eastern Kentucky. It's frigid outside. I hate it. Sure, the weather's a lot better out there in California where you are. Really wish that I was in your shoes right now. How are you doing?
I can't complain about the weather. I think it was a 70 something maybe today. I don't think I went outside
beat by
today.
about 60 degrees.
I do, and that's the beauty of living in California, I guess. At least for me. Some people don't like the weather out here, but to each their own. But we're not here to talk about California because there was no California team playing last night. There was really no point to talk about California at this point. But before we get into everything, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got content coming out. Make sure to check out the website, TWSN.net. We have articles coming out pretty much all throughout the day. We got different pieces. We got opinion pieces. We got trade pieces. We got predictive pieces. We have everything. Will does a great job on there. Our whole team does a great job on there. So make sure to check that out. That is TWSN.net. Make sure to check that out. But Will, we got to get into this. Because as I mentioned, we're going to start the show off. We got to talk about it. Indiana caps off their season, whatever you want, a historic season with probably the best turnaround we've ever seen in sports history. I mean, this Indiana program was dead in the water for the majority, 100 years plus. And then the last two seasons under Curt Cignetti, they revitalized. They go to the college football playoff last year, right? They fall short. They get kind of embarrassed in that first round game. They come back this year with Fernando Mendoza, transfer quarterback, and they don't lose. I mean, they undefeated national champions. They played a hell of a game last night. We'll talk about everything here, but what do you make of this? Because, there's been opinions going around since the end of the game last night, right? Just the dominance of Indiana, what this means for the sport, the legacy. What do you make of Indiana taking down Miami last night?
So I think that you're correct in that this is the greatest turnaround I've ever seen in any sport. I was thinking college football easily. Then I started thinking about it. Who's done something like this in any other sport, whether it's basketball at the pro level or college level, baseball, doesn't matter. I think this is easily the greatest turnaround we've ever seen. Curt Cignetti, he wins. We all know about the famous quote, and then he went out there and he did the biggest thing you can do in the sport last night. It's an incredible turnaround. He's a miracle worker. He's a magic man, whatever you want to call him. He's the best coach in college football. I'll stand here and say it. He done something that I didn't think would ever be possible. I mean, Indiana being the losingest program in college football history until this season, and they get out of that hole, and then they go and win the national championship. This is an all-time team that we're seeing here, man, and they finished the story last night, so really proud of them. There's not a lot more that we can say about them that we haven't already said or that hasn't already been said. It's just an epic turnaround that we will never forget.
And in all honesty, we're probably never going to see this happen again, because you needed the right collective of talent, the right collective of energy, spirit to win and go undefeated. It's not that they just won the national championship, right? Teams do that every year. They went undefeated in the Big Ten. They played Ohio State. They played Oregon twice, right? They took down Miami. They blew out Alabama. It's not like they were beating scrubs. They beat some really, really good teams. Now, we talked about this last week. I do not believe they are anywhere near that LSU 2019 team. But at this point, we have to put them into the top 10, if not even closer to the top 5 of all-time college football teams, just because of the storylines behind it. I mean, they didn't have a 5-star on this roster. You know how impressive it is to win the national championship without a 5-star on your roster? I mean, a year ago, Fernando Mendoza was a good quarterback, but I mean, he wasn't where he is now. Now he's going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft in all likelihood. He won the Heisman. He caps this off. And I think the crowning moments just in the game yesterday, It was a team game. That was a very good game. Credit to Miami. Miami should not feel bad about this. They played their asses off. Sorry for the swearing, anybody. They played their asses off against a very good Indiana team, and Miami had chances to win that game. There were some self-inflicted mistakes. They had two different chances to stop Indiana on a drive early in the fourth quarter or midway through the fourth quarter on fourth down. Indiana made the plays, right? And then obviously the epic run by Fernando Mendoza getting into the end zone for the touchdown, which kind of sealed it, but also not, because Miami still had a chance to win. But you can't say anything else. Just the pure guts that it took from Kurt Signetti and Fernando Mendoza to go not only once on fourth down for it, but twice, especially down towards the goal line, when you could have just taken the points. It's a national championship game. But he said, you know what? I trust my guys. I trust my quarterback. And now they're champions. Fernando Mendoza, he didn't play that well in this game, but he made the play when it mattered most, and that is all that matters. And at the end of the day, he is now a national champion. Nobody can ever take that from him.
Yeah, on that 4th and 5 play call, it was one of those plays that when you saw it happen, you instantly knew that's going to be on every highlight sizzle reel for college football for the rest of time until this earth is no more, or until the sport is no more. You're going to see that play year in, year out. You're going to see it on every highlight reel, every social media post. It's probably going to be the most searched thing in sports for the next few months. That was an all-time play made by an all-time player on an all-time team. And going back to the discussion that we had last week, and when you just brought up about the 2019 LSU team and are they one of the greatest of all time? They absolutely are. Now that they've finished the job 16-0, they've got the Heisman winner, Big Ten champions, national champions, all of the ranked wins over Oregon and Miami and Alabama and Ohio State, all of these titans of the sport. It certainly puts them in that conversation, and it's something I'm writing about for TWSN right now. It'll be out soon, the top 10 college football teams of all time. Without spoiling where Indiana is, they are in that list, and they have a pretty high spot on that list. They aren't the greatest. I'll go ahead and say that. You can probably guess the teams that are going to be at the top of that list, the usual suspects. But Indiana, you can't take anything away from them. This is an elite team, and they just made a few more plays in this game. And like you said, Miami played about as good of a game as they may have played all season. And I think that is just another testament to how great this Indiana team is. When Miami goes out there and plays one of their best all-around games and Indiana still gets you, it's something special on that team. But Miami has nothing to hang their head on. This was a great team. They shot themselves in the foot sometimes this season. And, the Carson Beck interception at the end of the game, you look at that and you say, man, if that wouldn't have happened. You look at some of the penalties that they had, man, if that wouldn't have happened. But at the end of the day, they played as well as you could have asked them to play against the best team in the nation. I think the corners did a great job on the receivers. The D-line was getting pressure constantly on Fernando Mendoza. Made him uncomfortable all night. They were in his grill. They were rushing him out of the pocket, sacking him, hitting him, and they played as great as you could. Carson Beck had tons of time to throw. Mark Fletcher had a lot of really, really crazy plays. Malachi Tony had an amazing touchdown. All around great team effort from Miami. It's just how good Indiana man is. They made one extra play.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that Carson Beck interception at the end of the game, because all I have seen is Carson Beck getting just grilled online, right? Like, yeah, he underthrew the pass, right? He underthrew it. In that spot, though, I'm not the biggest fan of that play call. You're going down the field because, look, you're going down the field. You don't have to go for a home run hitter at that point. You still have 50 seconds on the clock. I think it was a second down play, maybe, or third down. It definitely wasn't the end of the game. They had at least one more chance after that. You don't have to take that home run shot. And look, I like the aggressiveness from Miami, but you're only down 6. So you score a touchdown. In all likelihood, granted, people miss extra points, gets blocked, something happens. In all likelihood, you probably walk out of that with the championship on a game-winning drive by Carson Beck. why go for the home run hitter with 50 seconds left? I like, again, the aggressiveness is okay to me, but in that moment of the game, I might have tried to take what the defense gave me rather than forcing something down the field where clearly Carson Beck wasn't ready. He underthrew it completely because it wasn't like the defender was anywhere near the wide receiver. If Beck throws that thing a little farther, it's probably a touchdown for Miami. He burned the defender. It's just he underthrew it. The defender made a nice play in the defense, and obviously that's history. Obviously, like you said, big ifs. I can't fault Beck too much there. I don't think it was him that lost this game. Special teams lost this game because you give up a punt block touchdown, right? Right by the goal line. If you're Miami, that really did change the game. And credit to Miami, they came back. They took the punches. They kept punching back. It's just one punch too many. And Indiana's defense, who has stepped up huge all year long, made one play, as you said, and that's the end of it. And I mean, Kurt Signetti, you can't say enough about what he has done for this program and what he's probably going to do. If we're honest, I mean, Indiana has set themselves up. I mean, we're going to talk about the transfer portal here in a minute, but Josh Hoover, he's coming in there. I mean, no one thought Fernando Mendoza was going to be what Fernando Mendoza it looks like now. Josh Hoover has been really good over his college career. Who's to say Indiana is not right back in the championship contention next year?
I think that they absolutely will be too. I just don't see this team going away. I know they're going to lose a lot of, the key pieces that got them here this season. But Kurt Signetti knows how to coach football. He knows what guys he needs out there. Josh Hoover, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the next great Indiana quarterback that's probably going to be right there in New York at the end of next season. I mean, he's got all the tools around him. He's got the coach right there. He's going to have an elite defense having his back. And he himself is a very capable player, as he's shown at TCU over the last few years. He's a really good player. Kurt Signetti, like you said, can't say enough about him. This team is going to be a factor next season and for seasons beyond. I don't want to call them a dynasty that they're going to be a dynasty because I don't really know if we're going to see a dynasty in this era of college football, but they're always going to be a factor, just like Alabama was always a factor for so many years, just like Georgia, Clemson, all of those teams. That's going to be Indiana for years to come now with Signetti at the helm.
Yeah, and we've seen the comparisons now to Nick Saban. Obviously, let's let the Hoosiers win a few titles before we fully do that. But just the fact that they're even comparing them is a testament to what Indiana has done this year. Let's just say that. So congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers. You got your first championship in program history. We look forward to seeing what else you have to do going forward. Miami, it's okay. The U is back, not fully back, but they're back. And it was a prideful year. A lot of people thought they shouldn't even been in the college football playoff. And yet you were one play basically from winning the championship. So it was a hell of a game, hell of a bow on the college football season. And now we can look forward to next year, Will. It's a little early to be talking everything, but we can look a little bit forward. Let's talk some transfer portal because the transfer portal is technically closed, right? There's still players out there. It's kind of a weird situation going on with everything. Miami and Indiana get like an extension, and there's some other players. It's weird. We've seen a bunch of stars in college football sign places, right? And we talked about this a little bit last week. For you, Will, who do you think is going, now that you've had a little more time to think about it and see kind of the main players go, right? Who is going to end up being the most impactful signing? Like when we sit here 1 year from now, looking back, who is going to be the most impactful signing from this transfer portal, class, essentially?
So I think that I have two names, and they're probably two very obvious names, but you can't deny these are going to be immediate impact players. The first one is Sam Levitt to LSU. We talked about it last week. This is the quarterback that Lane Kiffin needs, is a perfect archetype for what Lane Kiffin likes in his offense. Big arm, mobile guy. He can get it done with his arm, with his legs. very smart, played a lot of football, Big 12 champion. He's got that deep postseason experience in the college football playoff. If he comes back and he comes back right, I think that he's going to be right there I know I keep saying this a lot, that everybody's going to be a Heisman contender next year, but next season really is a stacked year at the quarterback position. The Heisman race is going to be elite. I think Sam Levitt can be a big factor there. I think that he's going to lead that LSU offense to look a little bit better than they did this season. He's going to bring a lot to the table that Garrett Nussmeier just couldn't. So I'm looking out for him. And the other one is, of course, Cam Coleman to Texas. I think Cam Coleman right now, I would have said he was probably the best overall player in the portal. We just didn't get to see it at Auburn. He wasn't in the right position, or he wasn't in the right situation. The head coaching cycle, he wasn't ever really set up for success there. Didn't have a great quarterback, and they had 15 quarterbacks that played. None of them really synced up with him. But I think that Arch Manning is a great quarterback, and he showed us that down the stretch at Texas, down the stretch of this season. And you pair him up now with a true wide receiver one alpha guy that's going to be able to be your go-to man. That's what the Texas offense was really missing. And you factor in the other big-time signings that Texas made to fill out their roster, especially on the offensive line and in the running back room. I think it's going to open up plenty of opportunities for Cam Coleman in the receiving game. I think that he has the potential to be that game-breaking wide receiver that they need to push the offense over the top and to get Texas back to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best, and you stole mine. Mine was Sam Levitt. We kind of talked about it last week. I don't think anything has changed there. I think he fits Kiffin's offense perfectly, as you talked about. And to me, I feel like he was always the guy for LSU. I think LSU was talking to other players, but I think Sam Levitt was always the person that Lane Kiffin wanted. I mean, he has the Tigers at the number one transfer portal class. I mean, this is Lane Kiffin. He's the portal king, right? There's a reason he has that name. And I think LSU is set up really well, heading into next year. But, speaking of everything, this was a big issue that was talked about throughout the last, month plus. It was the college football calendar, right? You have the transfer portal opening up in the middle of the playoff, right? This is partly why the whole Lane Kiffin to LSU situation was such a big deal, because, if he wanted to coach Ole Miss, he would have to stay with Ole Miss coaching them, but also try to recruit for LSU. And it would have been a mess, right? So do you think that the calendar was actually as big of an issue as everyone made it out to be? Or do you think it was kind of overblown, and looking back at it, you're just like, you know what, it's a little bit of an issue, but it's not horrible?
I look at it this way. I think the calendar actually kind of helped make it more interesting during the month of December and into January, because it just added to the chaos that is the world of college football. When you have the playoffs ongoing and then you open up the portal and you have both of these things running side by side, and you have players opting out and entering the transfer portal when they were on college football playoff teams, it makes it very interesting. But I think overall it is an issue that needs to be addressed. I have gotten behind the idea that Dan Lanning brought up of having all of the playoff games every Saturday in December. And then if you want to play the national championship game on New Year's Day, do that. If you want to have it on the Monday after that, do that. That would take, I don't even know what that would take. You would just have to move the season up altogether, start the season earlier, which I would have no problem with. Another big fix that I've heard some people floating out there: move the transfer portal to the end of the spring semester for colleges. So it would open up probably first week of May for most places. I think that is the most logical answer if you want to fix the portal issue itself, because it just makes sense, right? All of these players are out. They're done for the year in school. If they're even going to class, who knows? But they're done for the year, and then they can just go transfer out, go to their place, and then they can be there for fall camp. The issue there is, of course, coaches want you there as soon as possible. That's why the portal window is where it is now. They want you there for spring practice. They want to get as many reps under your belt as possible. They want you to learn the system, and at some of these places it's very complex. So I understand why that would be an issue, but for me, I think the number one fix it would be the Dan Lanning idea. But if you just want to address the portal and why it's such an issue, I think that having it come in the spring instead of right in the middle of January, in the middle of the playoffs, that would be your best bet.
I mean, I feel like we could address both, right? You could fix the college football playoff schedule because it's kind of weird, right? Like it goes, you have a couple days and then you go like a week and a half. It drags it out and it's a little odd. You know, I like the idea of having it on Saturdays and then New Year's Day having one big game, right? Like that is the perfect thing, perfect ending to the college season. But if you don't want to do it that way, the day after the college football national championship game, portal opens. So it would have opened today, basically.
Yes.
Open it for the same amount of time, just push it back a couple weeks, basically. Then coaches can still get the players in early enough, but it doesn't impact the actual season going on. Because like I said last week, Oregon against Indiana in the semifinal had players in the transfer portal on the field. It's just this weird dynamic that college football has been going through. Just move it back like a week or two. I don't think that is that big of a deal. And it allows the season to then be done. And then players can make their decision. Then coaches can recruit. Then coaches can leave, per se. Like Lane Kiffin, for example, or Bob Chesney, or any of the coaches that changed jobs this year. Let them finish the year with their team. Or once their team is eliminated, right, from a championship, from the playoff, then the coach can leave, right? It just makes things a little smoother. But, you know, that's on college football to figure out. But I don't think it was as big of an issue as everyone was making it out to be. As you said, it did make it a little more interesting throughout the month. So, you know, that is that. And, you know, there's probably going to be a couple more signings coming from the transfer portal. Just, you know, a few more just coming around. But, Will, it's time to reflect. We got to do a little reflection on this 2025 college football season because it is now over. And I want to ask you, most disappointing teams, right? You know, we all probably know the basic ones, and that's fine. Who is your most disappointing team, or do you have more than one? Because there was a lot of teams this year that either fell flat, they didn't live up to expectations, they just were awful, for lack of better terms. Who do you look back on and say, you know what, that was a really bad year from this program?
So my number one, and this will be a thorn in my side for as long as I live, the Clemson Tigers. This freaking team, man. They were my national championship pick before last national championship when Ohio State won. As soon as Clemson got eliminated from those playoffs, I started looking ahead and I was buying into the roster. I was buying into Dabo. I was like, he's going to use the portal more. He's going to work some magic. I was riding hard for Clemson all off season, throughout the spring, the summer, into the start of the season, bang on the table. This is the national champion. They're going to be a great team. And then it was like death by a thousand cuts watching this team just spin their wheels to start the season. Miserable watch. And then basically after by week 5, I think they were out of college football playoff contention. And then they just kept losing. They finished 7-6. You can't even beat a state team in the Pinstripe Bowl. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And speaking of Penn State, that's another one I would throw in there. Now, I personally wasn't as high on them coming into the season because of the James Franklin thing. I was far past buying James Franklin as a great coach at Penn State and a guy that could get them over the hump and win the big game. I never really believed in that, but I didn't expect them to be as bad as they were. I expected them to put up more of a fight in some of these games. The UCLA loss is really where the wheels fell off for them, and then it just didn't get any better after that. I guess the end of their season sort of strong, winning a bowl game. You know, that's clap your hands for them. But overall, those are my two most disappointing teams, especially Clemson, man. It makes me sick to even think about. Jesus Christ.
I mean, you're not wrong. And, you know, I had Penn State as my national champion, so I'm right there with you about your national champion failing you.
What do we know?
Me, I guess we don't know anything. Maybe we shouldn't be doing the show. Who knows? But we do. We are, and that's okay. My number one, or one of my, probably tied, is South Carolina. You know, and I know they dealt with some injuries. I'm not going to sit here and act like, you know, like Sellers wasn't hurt for, you know, some of the year. But you come into the year with this much hype, right? You have this hype. You have this. You finally have your guy. You finally have this team. Beamer is ready to go, and you just lay an egg, right? You don't really be that. You're not that competitive. It just wasn't good football for me, and I'm curious to see how they respond next year. My other one is Iowa State, because Iowa State had everything rolling for them in the beginning of the year, right? They looked great. They pulled off some nice wins, and then they just collapsed. Like a little over halfway through the year, they just collapsed. It was like just a roller coaster drop. They just dropped down, and now they don't. Their coach is gone. Their quarterback's gone. Both at Penn State, ironically. But it was just kind of a disappointing year all around for the Cyclones, and I thought they were going to be better than they were. Arizona State also, but they lost a lot of talent going into the NFL. But coming off of a college football playoff berth, you think that the Sun Devils might do a little bit better, but they had a little run in the middle part of the season, and then they again fell off. Obviously, Sam Levitt wasn't healthy throughout the year, but still, it wasn't great. But obviously, there's more teams. But I think Clemson is number one. I don't care. They were a top team heading into the year. Dabo didn't learn his lesson. Dabo's yelling at the refs halfway through the year. It was a mess of a season. I don't want to talk about Clemson anymore. Clemson, I'm with you. But on the flip side, Will, most surprising team, and I don't want to hear Indiana as your answer, because that is a cop out. Other than Indiana, who surprised you? Who, when you watched them over the course of the year, you were like, you know what, this is a really good team. Oh, I didn't see this coming.
So I have a few that I can point to. I'll talk about some, and then I'll rattle some more off. I think that Oklahoma deserves some props for what they did. I know that they got, kind of embarrassed in the college football playoff, but you look at their schedule and what they were supposed to be. Most people were saying that they would be lucky to finish 500 or get to like 8 wins. And I think if you would have told an Oklahoma fan that before the season, if you would have told them they were going to finish 10-2, go to the college football playoff, they would have ran a lap around the state of Oklahoma in excitement. But yeah, this was a really great team to watch. The offense left a lot to be desired, but the defense, I think you could argue, top 3, top 5 in college football. They really shut some great teams down. The only big losses they had, Texas and Ole Miss, those are 2 playoff teams or fringe playoff teams. And then the Alabama loss, it was what it was. You did beat them in the regular season, so you can hang your hat on that. But Oklahoma, I think Brent Venables did a great job coaching them. I think John Mateer, I really wish that we could have seen the healthy John Mateer the entire season, because September John Mateer, you would have swore this guy was the greatest college football player ever. He was playing at a high level. I had him on my Heisman board. He was on my podium for the whole month of September. Then he goes down with the injury, comes back at Red River, doesn't go his way, and he's not really ever the same after that, but he's still clearly a difference maker, and I'm glad that he's coming back in 2026. He's going to be exciting to see. And then outside of them, I'll look to the Big 12 and I look at Houston. I think that Houston, they finished the season with 10 wins. I don't know many people that was picking them to win that many games, probably not even have a winning record either. I think that they came out of nowhere. They're kind of like that 4th team in the state of Texas, where, of course, you have Tech, A&M, and Texas as, the big 3, and there's still a sizable gap there, but Houston just plays great football. Finished 10-3 on the season. They were right there in the mix for the Big 12 for a little while, which was surprising. They only lost to good teams, so I think you got to look at Houston as one of them. They made Connor Wegman look like the actual – well, I don't want to say he looked like a 5-star, but brought the best out of him when many people thought that he was just done for in the sport. So getting the most out of him, that's a big accomplishment. I think Houston, they're in a great position to be good. They're putting together a solid portal class for 2026 too. So they could be factors in the Big 12 again. Then rattling off some more, I think Virginia, obviously, you got to look at them. 10-2. I know what happened in the ACC championship was just diabolical, but it is what it is. Still had a great season, put some good wins on paper. And then also keeping it in the ACC, I think Wake Forest, they probably weren't a team that many people paid attention to, but I watched a few of their games and they looked really good. The only big loss that they had was Florida State, but you can throw that out. And then, an 8-4 season or a 9-4 season, whatever it was that they were, that's something you can build off of going forward in the ACC, especially as wide open as I believe that conference will be next season. I don't see why it's crazy to say that they could be an ACC contender next season. So that's my short list of the most impressive teams and surprising teams from 2025.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nail, and you took a couple of mine, so I will give you that. Great minds think alike, I guess. The one you didn't talk about that I was pounding the table for all year long, and I was told on this show, no, they're not that good, and yes, I know they didn't make the college football playoff, but Vanderbilt, first 10-win season in the program's history. I know a lot of people don't like Diego Pavia. I get it. I know I get it. People don't like him. But what Vanderbilt did this year was very impressive, considering the fact that Vanderbilt has never been really seen as a dominant football school. They've always kind of felt like a tier behind in the SEC, yet they were right there for the college football playoff. If just a bounce here, bounce there, maybe they're in. And who knows? Who knows what Vanderbilt's going to do? I mean, we saw Carson Beck take his team to the national championship game. Granted, the defense did a lot of that, but that is not the point. We got to give Vanderbilt some love, or at least I'm going to give them some love. And I think we have to. Congratulations. They're going to be a force to deal with. They got that big recruit flip from Georgia. I mean, who thought we'd ever see that happen? So the days of Vanderbilt football being good are probably going to be here for a while. They're coached pretty well. They got some good talent. So credit to Vanderbilt. On a hell of a season, came up just short, but that is okay. Now, Will, I'm going to put you on the spot here for a minute. Our final segment of the TWSN Tailgate Show for the 2025 season. And that is bold predictions for 2026. I want at least 2 bold predictions from you, Will. What are your bold predictions? And if you don't have them yet, I can do mine first. So you just tell me.
Let's hear what you have to say first. I have to sit and ponder on this for a minute.
No, you are all good. I put you on the spot here. So my first one, we just talked about the ACC. I think SMU is actually going to win the ACC in 2026. Kevin Jennings is back. I mean, I know he struggled a little bit this year. He wasn't as good as he was when they made the playoff in 2024. He did still throw for over 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns. He needs to be a little bit more consistent. But with him, if he is your quarterback with SMU, and they were really good this year. I mean, I think they went 9-4. They were right there in the conference, discussion. He comes back. I think SMU is going to be a contender. I think they end up winning the ACC. My second one. This might be a little biased. I don't think it is. LSU makes the college football playoff next year. Ole Miss does not. Ole Miss will be out of the playoff. I do not believe Ole Miss is going to come anywhere close to what they did this year. I think this year was a perfect recipe for success for them. And to be frank, I don't think they were even that good. I think that they built and lived off of the hype of anti-Lane Kiffin. They wanted to prove something to him, to everyone else. They rode that into the semifinal. I'm not saying they weren't good. That's not me saying they were not good, but I don't think they were as good as everyone thought they were. This was an above-average team that squeaked into the college football playoff, in my opinion, because they didn't really beat that many good teams. If you look at their actual, schedule, that LSU win back in September looked good at the time, but LSU was kind of a dumpster fire throughout most of the year. So, so LSU in, Ole Miss is out. And my final one, I am predicting my national champion right now. Obviously, I reserve the right to make this change down the line. The Texas Longhorns will take home the national championship next year. Arch Manning, growing pains this year. We talked about it. He looked a little rough in the beginning. It was his first real test as a starting quarterback in college football. He looked like he couldn't fully manage the speed, manage everything. But as the year went on, as you talked about earlier, he looked better. He looked more comfortable. He looked more poised. And now he gets Cam Coleman. He gets a running game. That defense is still going to be very good. I think Texas bounces back. Give me the Longhorns to claim the championship next year. We will be sitting here talking about Arch Manning instead of Fernando Mendoza. And I'm going to do one more. Will. I'll predict the Heisman, too. We're going to have a repeat of the Heisman and the national champion. Arch Manning, Heisman. So it's going to be a good year for those Texas fans. That's what I got. That's what I got, Will.
I'm here for that. That's one that I've been pondering on. I'm kind of scared to pull the trigger on it, but for right now, I think I can get behind that Texas winning the national championship. I just look at what they've done in the transfer portal and what they retained from this season, especially just in Arch Manning. And you've got Sarkisian calling the plays. I think that they're going to open that playbook up a whole lot more throughout 2026. Now that they've got Hollywood Smothers and they've got Cam Coleman, they've added all these pieces. They're filling in holes on the offensive line in the middle of the defense. They have aggressively attacked the portal to strengthen the roster in every area that needed help from 2025. And I think that that's what you have to do. That's an all-in type of mindset for Steve Sarkisian and the Horns. I'm willing to say right now that I believe that they can win the national championship. I think that that will probably remain my pick. Hopefully, to God, it doesn't bite me like picking Clemson last season. Who knows, though? You can never really predict anything. Another thing, keeping it in the SEC, I'll say Tennessee gets back to the college football playoff. Now, I know they signed Ryan Staub out of the transfer portal. I don't love that. We're not going to talk much about that. I would much rather them start Faison Brandon or George McIntyre, but it's going to be a classic quarterback battle throughout camp. We'll see who wins that job, but I think that bringing in Jim Knowles and boosting up that defense is exactly what you need. You know what you're going to get with a Josh Heupel-led offense. It's always going to be high octane. They're going to put 700 points up per game. But can you stop other teams from scoring? I think a strength of the 2024 team was the defense and how good it was. James Pierce coming off the edge. Like there were some really great players in that defense, and it was a great collective unit. You know, I know they got smacked around by Ohio State, and that probably blisters how you look at that defense, but that was a good team. And what let them down that year was the offense, surprisingly. I think that going into 2026, we will have the perfect blend of a high-octane Josh Heupel offense and a lockdown Jim Knowles defense. I'm willing to say that they get to the college football playoff. I don't know if they win the SEC championship. I think the SEC, it's looking pretty stacked. I could see LSU winning the SEC. Just from an early standpoint, I think they may have the roster to do that. I think that Texas stumbles a couple times trying to get there, and that's probably why I don't see them winning the SEC, but I see them winning the national championship. So those will be my bold predictions for now.
No, I mean, the Tennessee one is bold enough considering they didn't really, go out and be aggressive to get a quarterback. So I like that. I like that one. I think the SEC needs to get back on top. That is the hot take right now. The Big Ten has overtaken the SEC for the most dominant conference. Let's quiet down. Let's just quiet down. You won 3 championships in a row. Cool. The SEC won like 9. In like a 10-year span. So I don't want to hear it. Until you do that, don't talk to me. You're also doing it in an era that you could just grab players off of rosters, and it's a whole other ordeal. But that is okay because we can't take anything away from Indiana and what Indiana just did. We had to end the show talking about Indiana because, they're just that good. But before we get out of here, Will, any last message to our viewers right before we close down the TWSN Tailgate show for right now, and we'll close down the tailgate for the 2025 season?
Look out for Western Kentucky.
That's
what I'll leave the viewers with, man. Now, they're probably going to get dog walked. I can't lie. They have a pretty rough schedule start. Going to Georgia and going to Indiana. Please just have mercy on us. That's all I can ask. But, yeah. No, it was a great time being on the show with you for the last few weeks, man. I'm glad that you let me on. It's been a great time. Had a blast. Can't wait to do it again next season.
Yes, sir. And just context for those who don't know, before the Western Kentucky LSU game this year, Will was just harassing me about Western Kentucky, and for a minute there, I thought they were going to lose to Western Kentucky, and they didn't. It was close. It was close. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We want to thank everybody for tuning in the entire season. It really does mean a lot to us. And Will, thank you for coming on the show. It was great having you. Your insight is always appreciated. Thank you to Josh and Bill. Also, I cannot stop this show here without thanking them. Bill, you got your national championship correct. If you are watching, Hoosiers, he was on the Hoosiers all year long. So, Bill knows ball. That's the old saying on this show, even if he's not here. But want to say thank you one more time. Make sure to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the website, TWSN.net. And from all of us at the TWSN Tailgate, the tailgate will be closing down for the season, but we will see you next time. We hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and can't wait for more college football. Thank you.